Hi everybody and welcome to Project Manager Plays with me, Sifu Xerxes. Today I'm going to show off 35 custom maps that are available through the Thunderstore mod store. Actually, I take that back. I'm going to show off like 17 custom maps. I'm going to split this into a couple of videos because there are a lot and I don't want it to be too long. So we're going to start with the Allegheny Ridges map. For options, I'm just going to keep things pretty default. I'll let the game choose a city name. Theme will be just North American. I'm not going to do left-hand traffic. Doesn't matter if natural disasters are on or off. I'm just going to leave them off. I am not going to turn on Unlock All. The reason for that is I actually want to see where the starting area in the city is. However, I do have a couple of mods installed. One is Historical Start, which will allow me to see the resources available without leveling up. And the other is the Unlock All Tiles Light mod, which will allow me to potentially see how many tiles I need to unlock to get access to like a rail line or something like that. So all that being said, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And let's go ahead and dive in. We'll start with Allegheny Ridges. We're going to take a look at 4 metrics here. Available resources, this is map wide. Creativity / variety in landscape, again map wide. Outside connections, and starting difficulty. So we'll start with resources. This is where the historical start comes in. It lets me see this at the beginning. So you can see this dotted outline is where Allegheny Ridges begins, and you do have a fair amount of farm available at the start. You've got a lot of forestry available, and stone mining looks like it is available in the starting map as well, along with other types of mining. And so is oil drilling. So at the start, you have access to all industry, and taking a look at the entire map, it looks like it's pretty filled up with industry and farmland in a lot of places. So available resources are fantastic at the start and honestly pretty solid through the entire game there. Creativity and variety in landscape. It's a pretty map, I think. It's got some beautiful rolling hills. Has some nice flatland to build on and plenty of water as well, so we'll give this a pretty high score. For outside connections, Hamilton Street here is connected to this highway, so you've got at least one outside connection. It looks like you've got another highway running off that way, so that's actually a second connection. And over here, yet another connection for roads, so you've actually got 3 outside road connections, and you've got power here. I wonder if there is water. There is not. And where is the rail? The closest rail is right here. So it's actually on your map as well. Outside connections are really good for the starting area. So I would say for difficulty on starting, this is going to be a pretty simple map. You've got access to a lot of things that you need. There is a fair amount of hilly terrain you're going to have to build around before expanding, so it could be, like, maybe not the easiest map in the world, but certainly not hard. All right, next up, we're going to do Atlantis. So here's our starting area. It looks like we are right in the middle of a huge chain of islands. Let's take a look at available resources. So for farmland, it looks like you do have a decent amount of these islands that are farmable. However, the starting area has almost no available farmland. The stone mining looks like it's available as well. Same thing though, like you can barely do anything. And there's definitely enough lumber you could potentially start with a lumber industry. Oil drilling looks like it is available, but not necessarily. Same thing, you don't really have a lot available to you at the start. So we'll say for available resources, this one's okay, maybe middle of the pack. Creativity, variety in landscape. I mean, it's creative, I'll give it that. It's a pretty cool looking chain of islands. Obviously not very natural looking, but this may be your flavor. It could be fun to build on. Outside connections are pretty slim. So you've got a highway, you've got electrical, and I'm guessing you don't have water. You do not. And you do not have access to rail either. That is somewhere over here. Here it is. Here's your rail. So you're going to have to expand by a few map tiles to get there. Let's see. 4? You can get it, but it's not available right away. So starting difficulty is totally flat. You've got a lot of buildable space. I'd say this is probably an easier map to start on, just because the hardest part of Cities Skylines 2, at least as of the time of this recording, is simply getting your city up and running enough to not be losing a ton of money, which generally requires taking good advantage of your available cop stations, fire stations, schools, etc., in as small an area as possible. And the best way to do that is to just have a lot of flat land to start on. So this one's going to be probably on the easier range. Let's see what's next. Moving on to the Cali Coast map. All right, we'll start as always with resources. Let's see what's available in the starting area. Almost no farming, plenty of trees, no mining whatsoever, and no oil. Now, if I zoom out, there is definitely some oil availability, but it's not very large. Decent amount of mining. Again, not really large though. And farmland is fairly plentiful. We'll give this kind of a middle of the pack score on resources. Creativity, variety in landscape. I mean, it's nice. If you're into ocean views, like this is a pretty good one. You've got this harbor over here, this bay. It's not all that creative or really varied though. You've got some rolling hills, you've got some flat, really actually you're only rolling hills in your starting area at least. There is some somewhat flatland over here, but it's actually quite hilly. So, I don't know. Middle of the pack for the score there. Outside connections, we've got one highway running through. Rail is really close, so that's a pretty solid score there. Electrical, inline, and no water or sewer connections. So outside connections are decent. Starting difficulty, this one's gonna be, it's not flat, but it's also not so hilly that you can't really build on it, especially with just a little bit of the terrain tools. Like you could easily level this thing out a little bit and make it look and function fairly well. So I'll give this one kind of a middle of the score as far as starting difficulty is concerned. It's definitely not going to be the hardest map you're going to play, but it's not the easiest one either. Moving on to Cape of Merchants. Oh, okay. So this one looks like you've got a really cool highway interchange at the start. That's interesting. Okay, so let's take a look, as always, first at resources. In our starting area, which is a little larger than normal, we do have a bunch of farmland available here. Plenty of trees in the starting area. No mining available at the start. There is some out there, but yeah, it's pretty slim pickings. A lot of oil, though, like a lot. So that's interesting. Zooming out on the farmland, there is quite a bit, but I mean, this is basically non-usable way out there in the mountains. So for resources, medium score, middle to low. Creativity, it's a cool map. It's got this like little Italy boot here. It's pretty creative. It's got a ton of mountains, which Obviously, my biases are playing up, but I love mountains, so it's a cool map. I think it's got a lot of variety in landscape. Outside connections are pretty solid. You've got a highway that runs through both sides of your city, and you've got some power lines. There is no water available through an outside connection. And where is the closest rail? It's right over here. So you're going to have to come out a little bit to get access to that. Let's see how many. Three tiles. Not bad. So that would give it a pretty simple starting difficulty. You've got a lot of flatland to build on. You've got an already existing really neat highway interchange to build off of. This one is going to be one of the easier maps. Next up is Carthage. All right, for Carthage, here's our starting location. Looks like it's fairly hilly. Yep, you've got a little bit of flatland here. Let's look at resources, though. Let's start there. So no farmland available at the start. Of course, some trees available, so you can do a lumber industry if you want. You do have a little bit of mining available at the start, and oil available, but not at the start. Let's take a look at the rest of those resources. They're spread out pretty thin. I hate when there's so little farmland available, because in reality, anywhere along these coasts could be farmland. So negative points there. Creativity, I mean, it's definitely a creative map. It's got some good variety in landscape. Not great, but good. Some rolling hills. This crazy little bay area. Outside connections are pretty slim. You've got a tiny little highway coming in, no existing interchanges, a little bit of power coming in, and no water coming in. So starting difficulty for this one is going to be on the higher side, but not too bad. Moving on down, Chicago. So this is Chicago, Illinois. For resources at the start, you are loaded. Oh, wow, look at that. So you can build farms anywhere you want. Pretty decent on the trees, not amazing. You can mine anywhere you want, and you can also drill for oil anywhere you want. So, available resources are off the charts here. Creativity and variety in landscape. I mean, it's modeled after a real-world location. It can only be so creative here. But as far as variety in landscape is concerned, it's a low score for me. Like I said, I enjoy mountains, and there are none. Outside connections, looks like you actually have, and this may be our first map today, an outside connection for water and sewer, as well as power. You've got rail right up against the start of the map, and a highway that goes through on both sides, so you do have two road connections at the start, and very, very fast access to rail. So this is probably a 4 or 5 on the outside connection score, probably a 5, just because that water and sewer really comes in handy, especially for your budgets at the start. You don't have to build a power plant and a water pump and whatnot. Starting difficulty, this one should be pretty simple. You've got all the connections you need and plenty of flatland to build on. Another Midwest map for us here. City of Detroit. It says it's a 1-to-1 scale, so that's cool. I've been to Detroit. I've, in fact, lived nearby. I'm unfamiliar with this particular road layout. I will have to go look at a map and see if this is actually what downtown looks like. But this is definitely the first map to actually have a full-on grid laid out at the start of the map. So as far as resources are concerned, let's take a look. Looks like farming is plentiful, however lower quality than some of the other maps. Plenty of trees, that makes sense. There are a lot of trees in Michigan. And mining is unavailable. There's no ore, there's no coal, there's no oil either, so pretty low score on the available resources. For creativity, it's Detroit. Variety and landscape, no mountains, so not going to give it a lot of points for that. Outside connections looks like they're pretty significant, at least as far as roads are concerned. You've got all of these rows going off in all these different directions. And you do actually have rail at the start as well. What about water? You do have a water and sewer connection at the start as well, it looks like. So that's pretty nice. Outside connections are pretty strong. Starting difficulty, this one's like Chicago, going to be pretty simple. You have a ton of flatland, you have all the connections you need, and at this point, you can just fill in this entire grid if you like it too. So this is probably the easiest map yet. Next up, we have Coastal Island. Oh, looks like this one has some water at the start. Let's take a look at resources. Huge amount of farming, everything. It's completely available on your starting map. Forestry is okay. Not great. I wouldn't try to build a forestry industry there, at least not without planting trees first. Stone mining, it looks like you've got that. Coal and ore fairly available at the start. And no oil mining at the start, but it's not too far away either. It looks like you're only about, what, 3-4 tiles away at the most. So pretty good on the resources, pretty solid in fact. So creativity, variety, and landscape. This one is, I mean, I think it looks pretty good. It appears to kind of look like Manhattan here. So maybe this is Jersey. I'm not totally familiar with the New York area. Please forgive me if this is actually New York here and Jersey's over here. Anyway, it's pretty. It's got a nice variety. You've got some small mountains and a little bit of hills, but a lot of flatland too. So plenty of room to build. Of course, I don't believe Manhattan is quite this mountainous, but hey, that's all right. Inspired by, right? Outside connections looks like you've got rail, you've got a highway going both ways through your map. You have power and you also have water. So outside connections is a solid 5, best score. Starting difficulty, this one looks like it's going to be pretty easy. You've got all the connections you need. You've got plenty of flatland. You've got water if you want to pump your own. You've got all the things. This is going to be an easy map to start on. Moving on to Dolphin Bay. So Dolphin Bay, and there are 2 versions of this map. The only difference is the bridge. I'll show you what I mean after we get through the first view. So for Dolphin Bay, available resources, it looks like we're starting up here. And for resources, we've got an insane amount of farming available. It's not wall to wall, map to map, tile to tile, but it's a lot. For forestry, you've got a pretty decent amount. You could certainly start a forestry industry there in the hills. You've got some mining available at the start and oil as well at the start. And then obviously plenty of resources throughout the entire map to build with. Creativity and variety in landscape. It's really well built out already. You've got a lot of infrastructure at the start available to you. Here's the Golden Gate Bridge coming into this bay. You've got some stuff ready for you to just start building your main roads, some highway interchanges and whatnot. And snow-peaked mountains. It's pretty good on the variety and landscaping, although I don't know what's up with this. Like, there's just a straight line down these mountains where the snow descends. Outside, that may be a Cities Skylines 2 bug rather than a map design flaw. Outside connections, obviously solid. You've got everything you need: water, sewer, power, lots of roads, even rail. You couldn't ask for more outside connections to start. And that's going to give you a pretty simple starting difficulty as well. This one does have this big hill right in the middle of it, so not as much room to build as some of those other maps like Detroit or Chicago. It's going to be a little bit more of a challenge, but not really. It's going to be pretty easy, maybe a 4 out of 5. And now let me show you the alternate version of Dolphin Bay. Instead of having the Golden Gate Bridge, it has the Grand Bridge, I guess it's called. That bridge looks like this. It's a lovely bridge. Most definitely. We're going to move on to, it looks like Flatland is next. A truly flat map, it says. Okay, so what have we got? Yeah, it's what I was afraid of. There is no water. I guess technically there is water over here. There is nothing. So if you want a blank slate to build on, this is the map for you. Available resources are... Honestly, I'm very disappointed by that. I expected the entire map to just be completely filled with resources. It is not. There's very little available. That's disappointing. Creativity, variety, and landscape. We're going to give this a solid 1. It's boring. Outside connections, pretty good. I mean, decent. You've got a highway going that way and this way. It comes into your city. You've got some rail. And you've got power. Do you have water? I don't think so. No, you do not. Starting difficulty. Other than the missing water, it's going to be a hell of an easy map, honestly. You've got a big starting area and no terrain to have to work around. That said, it's hella boring, in my opinion. I would never play this map. Moving on to another flat map. Yay, Flatonia. And for our starting area here, we have a rail and a highway that cuts right through the middle, and I guess water on the edge here as well. Some trees. Where are we on? So this is what I expected. Here we go. Farmland is pretty much covering the map. You've got some trees mostly covering the map. You've got these weird corners here of mining you could do, and then kind of weirdness going on over here with oil drilling. Not a fan, but, you know, you do you. So creativity, variety, and landscape, another 1 here. Outside connections, looks like it's pretty good. You do have rail and a couple of lines going out to different neighbors. You've got, obviously, power. Do you? Wait, where's the power? Oh, it's running underneath the road. Actually, then that means... Nope. I was thinking maybe there's water running through. There's not. Outside connections are pretty good. Starting difficulty, again, this one's going to be easy, other than you actually don't have a water connection anywhere. So maybe actually it's going to be difficult. You're going to have to unlock to the water over here. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to properly dispose of your waste or pump water. At least not easily, not as efficiently as you could with having a water source. So for that reason, I guess we'll say this one is not quite the easiest, but up there. Moving away from the flat maps, thankfully, we're going to load Fredericton, New Brunswick, which is a recreation of the capital city of New Brunswick, Canada. To all you Canadians out there. Okay, so for starting area, this one's a little bit weird because you don't have a starting area. Literally, like there's nothing available to you at the start. You actually have additional map tiles, so you can choose where you want to start. I would probably start somewhere in this neighborhood, as it has a lot of road connections and you need some water, and it's got, I think, rail coming through here. Or am I blind? I might be blind. I'm most definitely blind. There is no rail available on this map. Interesting. So you're going to have to build your own connection. Looks like you have power through the roads, and you probably have water through the roads for that case, for that matter as well. Yeah, it looks like it. Oh my gosh, maybe not. This doesn't actually look like it connects to a neighbor. Oh, boo. What's up with that? That's weird. None of these water None of these roads and water lines actually connect to a neighbor, so you do not have water available at the start. Getting distracted though. Let's take a look at resources. Full map. Pretty full on the forestry, pretty full on the mining, and pretty decent on oil, but not great. Creativity, variety, and landscape. It's just rolling hills everywhere as far as you can see. You do have a river and an ocean, it looks like, so that's nice. Give it a pretty solid score. I like this little, like, the meandering river going through here, stream, whatever you want to call it. I would say for starting difficulty, considering you can technically start anywhere you want, I guess we'd give that one like easiest, because you could, if you really wanted to, you could start here, or you could start over here, or you could start, well, you get the point. Let's see what's next. I believe we have Glacial Coast up next. So this is a modification of one of the starting maps. We'll take a look, as always, at our resources available. We've got a ton of everything, it looks like. Yep, it's just everywhere. So good to go on the resources. You will have zero limitations there. You won't have to use the developer tools to paint them in the way you want them. You're good to go. Creativity and variety in landscape. Creatively, it's basically just a starting map that they modified and added a bunch of resources to. Not that that's a bad thing. So variety in landscape, though, is great. I really love these mountains. I told you I'm biased against mountains. I love these mountains in the background. They look fantastic. This would be a really pretty map to build on, probably. Outside connections, you have a couple highways, one going this way, one that way. You do have an existing interchange, which is nice. You won't have to build your own power line. And do you actually have... Yeah, you do. There is, in fact, sewer available at the start as well, through the road or underneath the highway. So starting difficulty, this one will be really easy. It's flat. It's got plenty of room to grow. It's got all the connections you need, other than it is missing rail, but it doesn't look like rail. Oh, there's rail. Rail is close. You're going to need to buy 2, 3, 4 squares, 4 tiles to get to it. What's next? I believe Great Flatlands is next. Yeah, this is just another modified map of the Great Highlands map here. So for our starting area, let's take a look at resources. You have a little bit of farm available, little bit of lumber available, no mining available, and no oil available. Overall, this looks like a developer map. Like, they don't have all the resources in there like I like, so it's okay. Low score here. Creativity, variety, and landscape, middle of the pack. It's starting map modified. It's modified pretty well. I mean, it looks good. It looks like the buildable area is much nicer than the original map is. You've got a lot of flat area to build on, and some hills and things if you want to get real creative. So for outside connections, we have rail coming in, we have a highway going in on 2 sides, and power, of course, but no water available. So starting difficulty, this one's going to be pretty simple as well. You've got pretty much everything you need: power, water, all the things, the rail. Not a bad map to start with, although there are certainly easier ones. Okay, I think what's next is Island? What is that? I don't see anything called Island. I bet it's one of these weird ones here. This is it. This is F64, F99C. I'm not going to read all of this. Come on. Looks like the person who created this map didn't quite figure out how to name it, but that's all right. We'll take a look at it anyway. This looks like this may be modified off of the California map, the San Francisco map. Starting area, let's see. What have we got for resources? Decent amount of farmland available. Almost no lumber available, no mining available, and no oil available at the start, although there is a decent amount, but not nearly as much as I like available as you start to expand. Creativity, variety, and landscape. This one looks okay. I don't hate it. I mean, it's got some really pretty rivers running through. It's obviously an island. There's water all the way around it. It's pretty flat overall, but does have some rolling hills to break up the monotony. So I'll give it some points for that. Outside connections, it looks like you've got power and you have a highway coming in, and that may be about it. I'm not seeing a rail come in anywhere. Here's the rail over here. Looks like you're going to have to build 4 or 5 tiles in order to get that rail available to you. So for starting difficulty, kind of middle of the pack here. It's not going to be super hard. It's not going to be the easiest because you don't have as many things to start with. Not bad. And that leaves us the final map for the day, which is Jacksonville.
Jacksonville Jaguars rule!
This is obviously based on Jacksonville, Florida, and has, where are we? Oh, this is the starting area. It looks like you've got rail at the start. You've got a highway running through it. You've got power that runs through it. And no water or sewer. That's okay. You are right on a river. So certainly plenty of, I guess maybe even an ocean. Plenty of places to put your water pumps and the like. Okay. Let's take a look at the resources. Lots of farming available. Pretty good amount of forestry available. Not a lot of mining nearby, but a decent amount as you start to expand, and same goes for oil. I love that they made the whole map farmable, though. Good move. Creativity and variety in landscape. It's Florida, man. It's flat. I don't know what you want from me. There are gators in these waters, and I do not love that. It's okay. I mean, the water is beautiful. It really breaks up the monotony of the stupid flatlands. Outside connections, I've called out some of those already. It looks like it's pretty good. Not great, not bad. Starting difficulty on this one is going to be pretty simple as well. You have everything you need to build, but you do have a limited amount of buildable area considering how much this ocean or river is taking up. So I don't know. You win some, you lose some. If you love Florida, build here. Otherwise, maybe look elsewhere. All right, that is it for all of the maps today. We've gone through 17. I think we have, or actually, is that 16? Yeah, that's 16. I can't count. We've gone through 16 maps. We'll do the rest on the next video. Hope you enjoyed this. If you see something you like, please leave a comment below. Let me know what your favorite map is. And yeah, I really appreciate your time today. Have a great day.